As you can see, we are having an amazing video today, and in today's podcast, we are going to talk about the past, present, and the future of remote work. And we are going to have a very special guest today. Can you guess who he is? I'm very excited to now to get started, so let's keep moving. Hi everyone, I have with me today Dmytro. He's the CTO of Kickoff by Zuju. A pleasure to have you today, Dmytro.
Thank you, Khanh.
Yes.
A big honor for me to be in this podcast.
Thank you for being here today as well. I believe many of you already know Kickoff by Zuju, but for those of you who don't, Kickoff by Zuju is a leading direct-to-consumer sports app. It allows you to predict soccer match result, event, and even the flow of the game if you can. Best of all, you can win collectible just by doing so. And for those of you who don't know, Cristiano Ronaldo and Kickoff by Zuju are having a partnership. Actually, I have talked to and worked with Dmytro for many times, but to be honest, this is the first time we ever meet in person. And I guess that is one part of the side effect of remote working. And we're going to talk about the remote working, the present, the past, and also the future of remote working today.
Yeah, sounds great. I hope I can share some insights for your podcast.
Sure. But before we go into that part, let's start with some of the rapid fire questions. Are you ready, Dmytro?
Yeah, every time ready.
Okay, sure. So maybe we start by talking about the inspiration and vision behind Kickoff by Zuju.
Yeah, thank you, first of all, for having me. And to answer your question, we started Zuju because we saw a big gap between how football fans watching live games and how they interact with them, right? Especially with young audience, we noticed that during the live games, they often multitask. You know, they switch between different apps, maybe talk to their friends, then switch to statistics apps. Right, yeah. What we wanted to do, we want to bridge this gap and offer everything in one place in our Zuju application. I think what we did, and based on user feedback, is big success so far.
Nice, thank you. So, just a personal question: what's your favorite football club?
My favorite club is Arsenal. I like their history, their style. You know, I following them through, I think, starting from when Thierry Henry, Patrick Vieira played in this team. So yeah.
That was quite a long time ago, isn't it?
Yeah, true. But I think they're quite unique in terms of they don't have huge budget for the players, but they manage to, show great game with resources what they have. So I think I admire the style of Arsene Wenger and the history of the club.
Yes. When I was little, I feel like the coach is still there, was still there. So because a large part of our audience are like software developers, so how about we talk a little bit about the technology behind Kickoff by Zuju? I believe it's quite hard to build a robust and premium sports app for the global audience. So how can we achieve this?
Yeah, I agree with you. And to be honest, before launching Zuju Kickoff, we had many different iterations in other esport and fantasy games. We came with what we think the best technology for this kind of games. For example, for our native apps, we using Kotlin and Swift. This allow us to bring the best experience for our users on native platforms. And also, we can use the latest APIs available in these languages. For web, we use Next.js framework, the best framework nowadays. It has server-side rendering, good SEO, which is very important for us to attract global audience. On backend, we built our architecture on serverless approach. This allows us to adapt the system based on the amount of users on our platform, right? If it's many users, we scale up our serverless architecture. If traffic declines, we can scale down the system. Another thing, we're using a lot of managed services from AWS, like AppSync, Amplify, Pinpoint. And for these services, we don't need to worry about managing servers, managing security patches. It allows us to focus mostly on business logic. Like our main value proposition which we can bring to users.
And as well, just now we mentioned a lot about the global audience. I believe that Kickoff Zuju is like targeting globally. So how can we deliver the content to like the global audience smoothly? And because I believe there may be like latency and everything.
Yeah, good question. As I said, we rely our infrastructure on AWS. AWS has a lot of solution to serve audience globally. For example, they have CloudFront CDN, right? So we can deploy our application assets on CDN, and then user will be served from the closest data center. The same goes for our APIs, right? We use CDN distributed APIs. We know these challenges, right? And we know that it's very important to deliver fast and seamless experience for user globally. Especially our game is being served in real time. So this is for us top priority. And before we choose this technology stack, we research a lot of other options. Yeah, and so far, based on our monitoring and user feedback, it's the best possible stack at the moment.
Yes. So I feel like this space is quite crowded. We have a lot of competitors in the direct-to-consumer sports app. So what is the competitive advantage of Kickoff by Zuju, and maybe how does your choice of technology contribute to that competitive advantage?
Before we launched up, we did a huge market research, in terms of our competitors, our value proposition. I believe, and based on user feedback, our main proposition is that we offer real-time experience, and we offer in everything needed for our fans in one place, right? They don't need to switch to different apps to, let's say, check who scored the goal, check another statistics, right? Everything can be done in one place. And another thing, we noticed that users get quite bored when they just watch a football game. We brought a bit of entertainment to the game with real-time gamification tools. We allow them to fully experience the game.
Immersive experience.
Yeah, and as I said, for us, we focus more on user, not mostly on technology, right? Because for users, they don't care. They don't care what we have behind the scenes. The most important how they feel using our application and what value they can get.
Thanks, Dmytro, for a very deep dive sharing of the technology and also like the competitive advantage that Kickoff by Zuju is trying to give to our global audience. And because a lot of our audience would like to know, is Zuju hiring?
Yeah, we every time looking for great, talented engineers. We looking for Android, iOS, Node.js developers. So you can check out our LinkedIn page or our company website for the opening positions.
Nice. So if you're a football lover and you are great at iOS, Android, or Node.js, please check out their website and LinkedIn. The link can be found below. So the rapid fire part was some warm up. So let's move on to the main topic of today. We want to talk about the past, present, and future of remote working. And just for some context, so right now, by 2023, COVID-19 has already subsided to the past. And companies all over the world are asking the employee to, let's come back to office. But employees do not like it. A case in point is about 3,000 Amazon employees signed for petitions against the return to office decision by the company. So the main question for today is, will remote working be here to stay? Let's just start with something that's closer to home. So right now, Inspius has about 6 candidates working for Zuju, and all of them are having a great feedback about the company culture and the working dynamics. So maybe you can start by sharing what's your secret sauce by when you try to keep the employee happy, but also productive at the same time.
Yeah, actually, it's a great question. In our case, we try to arrange our work with remote team in asynchronous way, right? So then, first of all, we have remote developers in different part of the globe. We have engineers from Brazil, Turkey, Vietnam, India, they work in different time zones, right? And for us to be able to work with them productively, we first of all established asynchronous collaboration. We using tools like Slack, Jira, Confluence. We use a lot of automation, right? Especially for engineers. Whenever there is new code change, it's being checked by our automated tools. We have asynchronous code reviews. We have tools which run a unit test and automated integrational test. So before even a human fellow engineer will check code changes, it will be already checked by robots if it's suited to our practices.
So I think just like you mentioned the term asynchronous code review, and maybe many of the audience are not so familiar with the term. Can you elaborate on it a little bit?
Yeah, so actually it's quite common, in whenever you submit new code changes, you open pull request on GitHub. We using GitHub for host our code base. And then other engineers, when they have time, they can check the code, give their comments, and then also they can check how other steps in our CI/CD pipeline were run. Is it successful run? If any issues with unit tests, and they can pinpoint to engineer who submitted the pull request to ask for changes, right? Or if they want to, some clarification or suggest improvement, it's everything done in GitHub. Also, what we doing, we started to use AI for
Copilot?
GitHub Copilot. Yeah, we're using Copilot because, it's a really great companion when you need to start with some boilerplate. Because of course, right now it cannot replace engineers, but it's great, in augmenting, great in have and overcome your writing blocks when you have empty screen and you don't know how to start your function or class. So this is the best tool right now.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, personally, I also have been using a Copilot. So it's like very convenient. But I think one of the downside of Copilot is that we really need to check what Copilot suggested. Otherwise, it will go like high wire.
Yeah, true. And I saw the joke, that before Copilot, you used to code like 1 day and debug 1 hour, right? Okay. Right now you write 1 hour and debug 1 day, right?
Yeah. So I mean, sometimes like because I think we a little bit like too confident in Copilot, so like sometimes we don't really check the code, what Copilot suggested. So I think that happened to me a lot of time as well.
Yeah,
okay,
true.
So we talk about the working arrangement a little bit. So before COVID-19, every company was working in the office, but ever since COVID-19, the remote working arrangement has been very popular, and for the past couple of years, it's almost dominated the world. So what's the working arrangement for your team right now?
Right now we have a hybrid arrangement, right? So employees who based in Singapore, they work in 3 days from office and 2 days from home. We are quite flexible in terms of working hours. We give opportunities for developers to strive what they are best in coding, right? They need focus time, no distraction to be able to produce the best code they can.
Yeah. So according to a recent survey by a American nonprofit organization, the National Bureau of Economic Research, they found that the workers who are assigned to work from home full time are 18% less productive than their in the office counterpart. So do you think this is the case for your employee as well? The one who are in the office are more productive than the one working remotely full time?
I don't think this is the case for us. I think, of course, if you take this number across all industries, maybe it applies. But in our case, I cannot confirm these numbers. I don't know, because maybe we don't have so many remote employees, and we working with our remote employees for quite a long time, and we know each other, and they know our approaches, how we arrange our work. And at the same time, we know capabilities of our remote engineers. When it comes to productivity, I noticed that tech has allowed us to rethink what office hours means. Without being limited to a physical office and traditional working hours, we have seen that our employees discover when they work the best. Some employees productive in the morning, and other employees productive at the night. Our team doesn't just produce work on time, but the quality of work has also improved. We have supported this from a tech perspective by using collaborative tools and strong digital infrastructures. Our tech teams have been leading the way, creating and introducing platform that allow us to hold virtual team building activities and even digital coffee breaks. I see remote work not just as reaction to the global circumstances or temporary arrangement. Instead, I see it as a model for what future work could look like. A future that inclusive, creative, productive, and most importantly, centered around people. I believe we're not just creating efficient systems, but also building connection between teams all over the globe.
Yeah, so just now you mentioned a quite interesting term, digital coffee break. What does it mean?
Oh, actually, it's time spent away from your screen. For employees who work in an office, they spend time in pantry. For our remote employees, it's just, time spent away from the screen, drinking tea.
Yes, for sure. I think one of the topics that has been very hot recently is about mental health, because when you work remotely, it can really impact on your mental health because you feel lonely and you do not feel the presence of any of your colleagues. Does Kickoff by Juju have any strategy to maintain and to promote the mental well-being of the employees, especially those who work remotely?
Mm-hmm. In my role as CTO, I often find myself balancing technology with the human element. Our system and code are crucial, but the people behind them are what truly drive our organization. With a remote workforce, it's crucial to promote well-being, engagement, and a sense of team spirit for our long-term success. We have regular feedback loops, regular check-ins and reviews ensure everyone is on the same page and feels heard. This constant communication helps us identify any issues early and address them effectively. We prioritize professional growth and learning. We provide opportunities for our team members to learn and grow in their roles, which not only enhance their skills, but also boost morale and job satisfaction. We believe in transparent communication. Openness fosters trust within the team. We make it a point to be clear about our goals, challenges, and the rationale behind each decision. We foster a sense of belonging. Despite being physically apart, we strive to create a strong, inclusive company that everyone feels valued and part of the team. We recognize and celebrate success, acknowledging everyone's contributions and celebrating team's achievements, boost morale and enhance team spirit. In the end, our goal is to create a more connected, empathic, and engaging future for all our team members.
So just now we have talked about the part 2, which is the impact of remote work on employees. So now let's move on to the next part, which is the impact of remote work on organizations. And this morning I have just read a survey done by Gallup over about 9,000 participants. It says that of the remote workers full-time, only 28% of them feel a sense of connections to the purpose of their organization. This statistic for the in-office full-time employees are 1/3, which is about 33%. And the stat is actually highest for the hybrid worker, those who come in half the time to the office and stay home half the time. The statistic is actually 35%. So let's come to the first question of this part. Sơn Ding, he is a third year cybersecurity at Macquarie University. He asked, what are the potential long-term effects of remote work on the organization norms, culture, and purposes?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, good question. And the shift to remote work has changed how we seen as ideal workspace. As other parts were considered as flexibility or perk, last time, now become a norm. For example, clear communication, daily check-ins is very important nowadays in remote work arrangement. And additionally, blending between personal life and working life, this change brought more attention to the overall well-being of employees. Another thing that with remote work, we have different cultures, different traditions working together. So that is why the attention to inclusivity is being top priority in work. Is remote work, yeah.
So the next question that comes to mind is that in the case that remote work recede in the future, what do you predict in terms of the supply and demand of IT talents?
Actually, great question. In my opinion, that we could see more IT talents clustering in tech hubs, and this will bring, first of all, less supply of developers, and which at the same time will drive salaries to go high. And I think for some people it could be good news, especially for companies it will be some burden, especially for their budget. Another thing I could see that with this situation, the onboarding process will change because we will have more face-to-face communication and onboarding process during this phase. And it will be mix of virtual onboarding process with face-to-face.
In summary, what you mean is that when remote working recede in the future, you foresee that there could be a clustering of IT talents in certain tech hub. Because right now we cannot hire everywhere again, there will be less supply, and thus the cost of IT talent will increase, and that will be good news for some people, but not so good news for company because there will be a burden on their budget, right? And lastly is that the onboarding process. Yep. The next question that comes to mind is that what's your prediction for the near and medium future of work?
In near future, I expect work will likely be mix of remote and in-person models. With advancement of AR and VR, we will see that more immersive collaboration workspace. AI will play even more significant role. For example, right now we use it mostly for automation, but in the future it can place and improve other parts of everyday life in organizations. Another thing that employee well-being, especially mental health, will be at forefront of company priorities. As the digital landscape continue to grow, so will the importance of data security. The global push for sustainability will impact work patterns and practices. Finally, I see leadership will evolve to prioritize soft skills like empathy, adaptability, which will be crucial part on navigating constant changing work environment.
Yep. So I think at the last part you mentioned about the evolution of leadership. So that comes to my next question about how can organizations adapt as a whole to this new trend in working arrangement?
We constantly redefining our approach, but I'm confident as our organization we ready to adapt flexibility, use technology to our advantage, and drive business forward with data-informed decisions, establish tight feedback loops, promote continuous learning and development, and above all, enhance communication between employees. As the CTO, my aim is to tightly knit technology into our organization culture, making that our remote employees feel valuable and integrated in our work-life process.
Nice. Thanks, Dmytro, for the insight. And here comes a very interesting question from one of our audience. Her name is Silly Winston, and she is the finance specialist at Fortinet. And she asked, what are the factors or the reason why companies are trying to bring their employees back to the office?
Through my communication with other peers across different industries, I noticed several factors they may have influenced this decision. One factor is the dynamics of collaboration. In-person interaction can sometimes foster a unique type of creativity and synergy that is difficult to replicate in a remote setting. In this context, some companies might believe that their teams operate more efficiently and effectively when they present physically in one place. Another factor is the assessment of productivity. While many companies reported seeing productivity increases with remote work, others observed that certain tasks or roles were more difficult to manage remotely. In these cases, I think hybrid model could provide a balance, allowing employees to work remotely for some tasks while coming into the office for others.
So you're advocating for a hybrid model work as well?
Yeah, as I said, at Zuju, we practicing right now hybrid model, and we see that it allow us to gradually switch from fully remote settings to hybrid and office setup.
I see.
It is important to know that there is no one-size-fits-all solution. Each company decision is shaped by their unique needs and challenges. Some companies may find more value in bringing employees back to the office, while others will continue to embrace remote work. And the key is to find an approach that balance the needs of the business with well-being and productivity of employees.
Thank you for the insight, Dmytro. Okay, so one more interesting question from one of our audience. His name is Jung Andao, and he's currently a software engineer at Telio. He asked, like, what's the percentage of companies who have adopted a remote-first or remote-friendly working arrangement?
Thank you for raising this question. Honestly, I'd like to look back to the host on this one. I'm not entirely certain myself. I'll be sure to delve into it after our podcast.
Sure. And I will definitely get back to you on that. Okay, thanks, Dmytro, for the insight so far. And I think that's come to the end of our podcast. So do you have any final message for our audience, and especially young software engineers who are just starting on their career?
It's very hard to give one advice for broad audience, but what I can tell, and from my past experience, that be curious, right? Try something new, try new technologies, and if you see that a lot of people talking about some approaches, some new breakthrough, try it and research it on your own. For example, AI, right? So try to understand what is behind it, what scientific methodology behind it. Do it yourself, try something new, and basically try and do.
Thank you, Dmytro, for the message. And I guess that closes our podcast for today. Thanks, Dmytro.
Thank you, Khanh.
Thank you.
Big pleasure
Yeah,
to be
thank you.
in your podcast.
Yeah.